Yeah, good morning. Beautiful.
Morning.
What a lovely interaction you just had. That really, woo, that just sent me into a real bliss or something anyway. Um, so I had two questions. And the first one relates to the meditation, which was really lovely. And then at the very end, you start talking about the image you have of yourself. And what am I doing it wrong? I didn't feel like I have an image. I don't see my nose. I don't see my ears. It's more like if you say, notice the air going in and out of your nostrils, that I directly notice the air. I mean, I don't have an image, but then I thought, well, golly, I'm an image based person and I always have been. So I thought, what's going on? Am I bypassing something here by not seeing myself necessarily? Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of identifying. I'm not pointing at you in any way. I'm just speculating now on what you're saying, and it's just back forth ping pong conversation. I'm not pointing directly at you with this. Um, I think that in the non-duality and in the fed community, there's a lot of identification with no, not identifying. There's a problem in that in that we kind of rush into the non-identifying. We kind of rush into, but there is no I. And by that, there's a lot of bypassing happening. And it's where Todd and I really enjoy slowing down and zooming in and really looking into all the small, uh, nooks and crannies that we have hidden away where identification is. Because there are many, many different ways of identifying that is much more subtle than a nose. Like if you get a huge pimple on your nose, then you might not have an issue with the pimple itself, but underneath there might be the identification that you project onto others. Like I said, that how you think other people see you, that identification. So it's not how you see you in the mirror. It's not that subtle first, there's the very gross identification. I have a pimple on my nose. I don't want a pimple on my nose. That is very, very easy to look through. Then there's the more psychological level that what does this mean? Why do I have a pimple on my nose? Is it something I'm not aware of? Is it something I need to look into? Um, that can be seen through as well. Then there's the shame of walking around with it, both for me and for other people. And then we get to the level that I was pointing out in the meditation, that you have an image of you that is now disrupted because you have a pimple on your nose, and that is not part of how you view you. For example, every time you look in the mirror, have you experienced sometimes to get surprised by the old woman looking back at you? I saw a picture of myself. My son, he had his 29th birthday yesterday, and my dad sent me a picture of Ben's first Christmas. And I was sitting with him at the table, trying to save all the things on the table that he was reaching out. 1-year-old is reaching out for everything. And I was sitting, trying to move all the things out of his grasp so he wouldn't pull the entire Christmas dinner down. On that picture, I'm about 28. And it was really funny looking at it and going like, oh my goodness, that's how I see myself like that. That is how I see myself. Clearly, it's not how I look, you know? I'm not 28. So there's at my inner identification with how I see me is not in line with how I see myself in the mirror. There's a discrepancy in that identification. When there's a discrepancy in there, it's also, for example, when we can have issues with our body. Like if we gain weight, if we lose weight, if we start to get wrinkles or saggy boobs or anything like that, that we can have an issue with that. There are multiple levels to have an issue with that. First of all, the gross identification with the body, but then it's more the subtle level where the inner picture I have of my body is not with wrinkles and saggy boobs or 5 kilos or 10 pounds more heavy or whatever. So it's more that level that the identification is with. Did I answer your question?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Like what you said about the image you have of yourself is the one of you with your baby when you're 28 years old or whatever. That's where that there are definitely. I mean, there's almost every morning when I walk into the bathroom, I see what I don't expect to see. In a way, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's
It's
not good. It's not good or bad. It's just
just
not.
different. Exactly. It's
Right.
different. It's different than the mental image identification that you have of you. So when you say I don't really identify with my nose, imagine that you get cancer and you get half of your nose operated away. As the most of us would be okay on the level with, I mean, things happen. We all get sick. We all, if we're fortunate, get old and we all die. This is just how this is happening to me. Getting cancer, my nose is operated away, but there would be an image of you with a nose that would not correlate with the image of you not having half of your nose.
So how is that a problem? Or I mean,
Not a
what?
problem. No, no,
So
no, no.
how is it significant? Because the fact that I didn't really have an image of myself as you were going through the meditation, I wanted to get in the mind and like, what's going on with not having an image of?
It's because you're bypassing. You're too quick.
Mm.
Imagine the things where you say, I don't identify with that. Imagine that it's not there.
Well, I'm not saying I don't identify. I want to be clear about that because I don't think about. I mean, the very first statement you said about people identifying and they're identify with identifying or whatever. I thought I don't know if I think that way. I don't think that I do, but I might be wrong. I mean, I've been discovering an awful lot about how I have an idea about a certain thing and then it really isn't so as I start to really look under the layers. So I'm really investigating these areas where there's a bit of a mismatch between what's actually seems to be happening and what appears to be the what's being trying to be brought out. Like you say, look at that image of yourself. So I don't feel like, yeah, I don't know what to say.
But when you say that, for example, I do not identify with my nose, all I'm doing is questioning if that is true because I think you do.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know what that means that I identify with my nose.
Okay, imagine your face. If you close your eyes and imagine your face, do you have a nose?
Yeah, I mean, apparently I don't,
There you go. That's the
but
that's the mental picture and the issue what I was pointing out in the meditation. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. None of this is a problem. I mean, we're in the cherry on the top gravy part, of identification looking at it. But it's just the very very subtle identification that we normally do not pay any attention to.
okay, I
And
got
when
you.
we move into the higher fives, this is the area that we're working in.
Okay.
So I'm not talking about gross identification at all. I'm
No,
talking
no,
about
yeah, that
that
makes sense.
that very, very subtle identification that is happening without you being aware of it. So it's only for you to go, "Oh, I am identification with a nose. I think I have one when I close my eyes." So you still have an image about you, and that image is what you're identifying with as a baseline. That's the
Okay.
starting point of all identification that is happening on the higher fives.
It does feel awfully subtle, but I hear you. And what I would say is because, I did the Headless Way was where I got a really big pop when I went through the Finder's course. And
Mhm.
since then, there is a sense of there actually being no head. I mean, literally, like right now, I don't have any. I can see, if I look, I can see a little shadow of the end of my nose, but I don't it doesn't mean anything. In other words, there's a sensation of there is no head here. There's just a room and a view of the computer and but I want to be sure I'm not like bypassing. So
Ah, you are.
yeah,
You are. Did you have you looked in the mirror today?
yes.
There you go.
What do
Why
you
would
mean?
you look in a mirror if you don't have a head?
So that this face doesn't look so bizarre like it does when I first look
There
at it in
you
the
go.
morning.
There you go. There you go. That's
Okay.
exactly it. You have an identification where you think that if you don't look in the mirror, people will see you in a certain way. That is your self-image projected onto other people. That is a very, very subtle identification.
Even
But
though I can't like find it, like I can't look in the cognitive thing and actually see an image, doesn't mean it's not
subtle.
there.
It's much more
Right.
subtle.
Okay.
You have an image where you believe that looking in a mirror will have any influence on on that image.
Right, right. Okay. I'm clear on that now. Thank you for helping me get straight on that. Yeah. Very nice.
It's those very, very subtle levels. Um, we talked about it the other day, Todd and I. We're asking, "Have you looked in the mirror?" And he was like, "No." And we found out that none of us are looking in the mirror. We're checking that we don't have stuff in our teeth, and that's about it. That's about it. So it's
Right.
with that, even with that, checking that there's not like, spinach in
Black
the teeth,
thing.
even
Yeah.
that is an identification that I know that there's something here that is perceived in a certain way out there.
Yeah.
That is identification.
Totally, I get it. Because the only
That-
time
that-
I'm really concerned is with like, I mean, I live alone, and so I stay at home a lot with my animals. I'm kind of a ratty mess a lot of the time, which is, fits my lifestyle. But when I get ready to go to town or gonna whatever it is, or we're gonna get on a
There you
Zoom,
go.
yes, comb my
Just look
hair.
into that. Yeah, just look into that. And it's not that there's any problem with it. There's no
Yeah,
problem with it
right.
at all.
No, I
It's just
actually think it's
becoming, it's just really, really slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, and zoom in. Where is the identification right now? What inner picture do you have? What inner projection do you put on other people? What is that talking about? What is that telling you about? So the moment you think that there's no identification anymore, you're too quick.
well, I don't think that. Clearly, I don't. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Yeah, and so great, great. It's funny because there's an idea that the reason that I do those things, like check your teeth, is not for myself, but for whoever I'm interacting with.
There we go. There's identification in that.
Right.
Yeah. What is the story behind that identification?
Yeah. Hmm.
There's it just gets more and more subtle. It's like it's just a whisper at the end, but it's still identification.
Oh, totally. I can really see it at that level. Sure. Yeah. It's like, needing to be not rejected or seen as less than or inappropriate or whatever that all that is. Yeah, I totally get that.